Once again, we'd like to lead off today's video by saying a big thank you to everyone who has stepped up and joined us over at the Florida Maquis Patreon channel. It's only $1 per month, even less if you sign up for an entire year. Fully refundable first 90 days, and we charge the lowest allowable level. The content at Patreon is not for the faint of heart. It's how adults talk to other adults. Here at this platform on YouTube, we have to kind of dumb it down and keep it PG-13. My main video yesterday got demonetized for a very simple image that I'm sure a lot of you would not think would cause such a thing. And I'll be able to share it over at Patreon and share why that was the case. But nevertheless, that $1 makes a huge difference. In fact, it's going to be the topic of today's video here. Dollars. The more decisions that you are forced to make alone, the more you are aware of your freedom to choose. Thornton Wilder, I think this would be the ultimate expression of liberty that almost everyone in my audience would say. I just want to be left alone by government. I don't want people telling me what to think. I don't want people telling me what to do. I just want to take in all of the information and make the best decisions for myself that I can, without anyone else judging me or attempting to influence me. That's fair. That's absolutely fair. But sometimes, that's not always the privilege that we grant others, is it? For a long time, this channel talked about Venezuela, and they wanted to chart their own course, make their own decisions, do things their way. And Washington, D.C. didn't agree with it. And so they ramped up maximum pressure sanctions on Venezuela in order to get them to acquiesce and get rid of their own currency and replace it with ours. A nation, the United States, that talks about liberty and freedom didn't allow it for another country. And made up all sorts of stories and lies about fake election machines and all this kind of stuff. Ironic they don't allow you to talk about that here now, even though it was their idea then. But there's a test that you can always give that will divine the truth, that will uncover the reality. It's the lawnmower test. Let's say you live in a neighborhood here in North America, and you have 1 acre of grass that needs to be mowed once a week. And you have a young person in the neighborhood that will do it for $15 an hour. Have a little push mower, a little can of gas, takes them 2 hours with the bagging of the grass and everything. And so you pay them $30 per week to mow the grass. Now some might think that's high, some might think that's low. But nevertheless, $30 is $30. And 1 acre of grass being push mowed takes a certain amount of effort. Now, it doesn't necessarily matter what your zip code is. If it's grass that's 4 inches tall and it's the same push mower, it takes generally the same amount of gas, same amount of effort, no matter where you're at. California, Colorado, Florida, doesn't matter. Now, what can $30 buy the neighborhood kid in North America? Well, let's see, movie tickets are, what, $7-8 now? Maybe $9, even more. You can go to the store and you can see, how much drinks cost or how much new tennis shoes cost. And you can make an assessment of what that work is worth in real goods. Now, $30 in Florida doesn't go nearly as far as $30 in Venezuela. But wait a minute. Here's the test. The effort is exactly the same, meaning the value cannot possibly be contained in the work. You can get way more for $30 in Venezuela, comparatively speaking, than you can get for $30 in Florida. for the exact same amount of work. Now think about that for just a minute. Why would that be? Why is $30 worth so much more in Venezuela than it is in Florida, even though it's the exact same amount of work to achieve it? Is it socialism versus capitalism? I thought capitalism made things better and socialism made things worse. You can get a week's worth of groceries easily for $30 in Venezuela. No chance of that here. You see, the value isn't in the work. The value is in the money. That's why the dollars are worth so much more in Venezuela than they are in Florida. Work is work. 15-year-old kid, push mower, 1 acre of grass. Pretty much a static thing. But yet one gets way more value than the other. How could that be? See, that's the test. And I'd give you this test too. If you think that's a poor analogy, this is a picture from a drug dealer's house in Mexico that they busted, who had figured this out, that the value is in the money. Regardless of people saying, oh, it's fiat currency, the value is in the money. Because there's nowhere in the world you can go and not buy things with dollars. Pardon me there for 1 minute. There's nowhere in the world. You can get on Amazon right now. And the more dollars you have in the bank, the more stuff you can get delivered to your house. And here's the test for you. If you had a choice, if I had a choice, like you can take one of three things. You can take $200 million in cash, just like this. Or you can have a $200 million warehouse full of every kind of grocery you could imagine. And it comes with, the pallet jacks, and of course there would be, power that would be needed to keep the lights on and climate control. But every kind of food stuff you could imagine. You see, this is real goods. Would you rather have the warehouse with $200 million worth of groceries? Or would you rather have $200 million in cash? What if it was a state-of-the-art armory with the most advanced weapons and ammunition, $200 million worth? Would you take that over $200 million? No. The vast majority of the people, sound of my voice, would take the money. Why? Freedom. Liberty. Having the money gives you the ability to do with it, break it down, whatever you want to do. Use some of it for food. Use some of it for weapons. Use some of it for other things. It would be entirely up to you. All the decisions would be your own. Thornton Wilder, you're aware of your freedom to choose. And your freedom to choose comes right down to this. So that's two proofs right there, the lawnmower test and what you would choose personally. Cash is king. Now, this is probably my fault that the subject that we've been talking about for the last couple of months, that people haven't understood what I'm talking about. American tyranny of 2020. When nations and peoples come out of periods of great tyranny, the pendulum swings all the way over to the other side to unbridled liberty. That's why when people left England, Spain, France, came here to this country, they went from living under kings to having nobody tell them what to do. And so they did some of the most awful things you could imagine. They enslaved other people. They literally had nobody telling them what was right and wrong. Some of them had Bibles, some didn't. They did just whatever felt good and whatever they could get away with in the New World. Because there was no one telling them they couldn't, and there were no consequences. Now think about this from a prisoner's point of view. Imagine if somebody came to a prisoner and said, you can buy your freedom. We have a bank that's ready to give you a loan that'll buy out the rest of your sentence. See, the reason you were sentenced to prison was because you owed a debt to society for the crime that you committed. Well, this bank thinks that there's a certain amount of risk that they can monetize by buying out the rest of your sentence, and it will save the people of your state a ton of money, because clothing you and feeding you and housing you and giving you all this medical care for the rest of your life costs a ton of money. So this bank's going to say, you know what, we're going to buy out the rest of your sentence. And all you have to do is sign a promissory note. It's a loan, basically, that you've got to pay back with interest. And you're free tomorrow. All you've got to do is sign the papers. Every single one of them would do it, wouldn't they? Of course they would. They would go from being held in a prison by the state to being held in financial bondage to a bank. But this is a hell of a lot more preferable than prison, is it not? Now, when the time came to pay the bills, they said, well, okay, we're gonna track your income. And as soon as you earn an income, we're going to take 50% of it, 60% of it. And if you can feed yourself, great. If not, well, that's great too. See, there's help wanted signs everywhere, and the government is on board for this because there's so much of a demand for help, and we have all these people locked up. So this is what we're going to do. We're going to take out this money. You're going to pay it back. It's going to be like an insurance policy. And you're going to go to work. Now, you go to work, local gift shop, coffee shop, mowing lawns, whatever, where they track your income. And they're taking 50, 60, 65, 70%. And you've got nothing left over. It's better than prison. But what if they couldn't track your income? What if you got into something where it was just cash in hand? And you could live large. It might be a little bit immoral. But what's more immoral than living in prison or being free? I guarantee right now, if I went to any women's prison and I said, hey, you can be free today. We'll even put you up in an apartment, but you've got to do out calls. I'll bet you at least half of them, if not more, I'll bet 3/4 of them would take the deal. I'll bet a big chunk of them are in there for that anyway. You see, it used to be that when you didn't pay your bills, you could go to jail. Who remembers the years long ago when they had debtors' prisons? Well, guess what's happening now? Not only can you not pay your bills and they'll not come after you for the money, Joe Biden just signed away how many trillions of dollars of your money and my money in the form of taxes. Changing the terms of the deal like Darth Vader. So why would anybody do anything that the government could track? That the government could track. Any kind of business where it's just cash in hand is going to explode. And this is the most lucrative one, by far. In fact, it's one of the very few remaining where it's solely done almost completely, privately, in cash. That's not tracked. There's a deputy here in Florida that just had been a deputy for a long time and just ruined his entire career for doing this, engaging in this. See, that's why they do it in South America. That's why they do it in Venezuela. That's why it's all over Brazil, all over Latin America. That's why this type of employment is so common. And this is the point that I'm making that I guess I didn't make correctly. People were focusing too much on the seedy side of what I was saying. Liberty at any cost. Liberty even at the cost of morality. If it means making more money, stacking more bills, and keeping them out of the hands of Washington, D.C., or even out of the eyeballs of Washington, D.C., morality goes out the door. That's why I used the prisoner thing. They can sit and list all day long for you 100 reasons why it's better to be free than in prison. And they aren't going to listen to any of your immorality this or Christians wouldn't do that other. They're like, sorry, if God wants me to go back to prison, I'll deal with him on Judgment Day. But as it is stands right now, whatever deal they would bring me to get me out of prison, I would take. Now imagine a workforce that had that attitude. A workforce of millions that had that attitude. See, that's the pendulum. That's what I've been trying to talk about, and maybe I've been doing it poorly, and I apologize. But believe me, the pendulum's going to swing. And when it does, it's going to be, sorry, I got distracted there for 1 second here at the end, thinking about whether I want to start up another quick tangential topic on this or not. I don't think so. I think we'll save it for tomorrow. The more decisions you're forced to make alone, the more you are aware of your freedom to choose and whatever those consequences might be. See, I guess the question would be tyranny or morality. Would you accept one if it came with the other? Would you like a government that had enough power to completely wipe out all immoral ways of making money? Because once again, we established clearly, without any shadow of doubt, the wealth is in the money. And I can prove it even once more. All these groceries, even the ones that last the longest, they're going to perish. $200 million worth? Imagine saying, I'm going to invest in oranges. I'm going to go pick 20 oranges, and I'm going to put them on my counter in the kitchen. And a year from now, those oranges are going to be worth a lot more than they are now. Of course they're not. They're going to be rotten. Just like all this food will be likely perished. And over a certain amount of time, your $200 million will go to zero. Especially given the operating costs of the warehouse. These weapons. A weapon is only as good as your amount of training with it. Right? A weapon is only as good as your amount of training with it. So you would have to be using these weapons and training with these weapons and going through ammunition and cleaning the weapons, maintaining them and repairing them. And there would be a cost involved. And eventually they would all wear out. It may be 100 years, but they would all wear out. 100 years ago, $200 million was $200 million. Today, $200 million is $200 million. It was worth a lot more, relatively speaking, I guess, at points in the past. What you could do with it. But you'd still want the cash because you would want the freedom and the liberty. That is where the wealth is. Regardless of anybody yammering on about fiat currencies, the wealth is in the money. It's the lawnmower test. Doesn't matter where the acre of grass is. It takes the exact same amount of effort to mow it. I'll leave it there. God bless. Like, share, subscribe. Thank you once again, everyone, for joining us for that $1 per month. And that's for all the videos, everything. Even less. Sign up for an entire year. It's only 90 cents a month if you sign up for an entire year. And we put out videos usually weekly. I think right now, since we started the first of the year, there's about 37, 38 videos over there. Psychological operations training, a 4-part series on survival for men, 4-part series on survival for women, different logic fallacies, cognitive biases, different things that we're going to be facing that we can't really talk about here on YouTube. So I'll leave it there. God bless. Like, share, subscribe. We'll see you guys next time.